In 1941, at the Babi Yar ravine near Kiev, Ukraine, Nazi German soldiers massacred more than 30,000 Jewish civilians. After the end of the Second World War, official Soviet anti-Semitist propaganda led to the denial of the massacre, as well as the denial of other similar events. 20 years later, Soviet writer Yevgeny Yevtushenko composed a poem about the Babi Yar massacre, which was the inspiration for Soviet musician Dmitri Shostakovich's 13th Symphony. In this way, both Yevtushenko and Shostakovich fulfilled their civic responsibilities to speak out against the suppression of the rights of a group of people. By supporting the Jews in the Soviet Union and memorializing the Jews murdered by the Nazis, Shostakovich and Yevtushenko ensured that the rights of the Soviet Union's Jews would be protected in the short term, and the responsibility to protect those rights would be a matter of utmost importance in the future. On the 19th of September, 1941, the German 29th Army Corps and the German 6th Army occupied Kiev, taking control of it from the Soviet Union. The Jewish population of the city were not initially worried, and some even hoped that the Germans would restore the rights and property of the populace abolished by the Soviets. However, on the 24th of September, Soviet operatives that had remained in the city set off explosives near the German headquarters, and the Germans blamed the city's Jewish population for the attacks. The Germans used this excuse to round up Kiev's Jews and deport them from the city. Soon after, Nazi soldiers began their killing of the Jews at the Babi Yar ravine, massacring over 30,000 in total. The witness Irina Koroshinova, a non-Jewish resident of Kiev, recounts the events. She states in her diary entry for the 29th of September 1941, "We still don't know what they did to the Jews. There are terrifying rumors coming from Lubyanivka cemetery, but they are impossible to believe. They say that the Jews are being shot. Some people say the Jews are being shot with machine guns, all of them. Others say that 16 train wagons have been prepared and that they will be sent away. Where to? Nobody knows. Only one thing seems clear. All their documents, things, and food are confiscated. Then they are chased into Babi Yar, and there, I don't know. I only know one thing. There is something terrible, horrible going on. Something inconceivable which cannot be understood, grasped, or explained. By the 2nd of October, all doubts had disappeared. Everybody is saying now that the Jews are being murdered. No, they have been murdered already. All of them, without exception, old people, women, and children. Those who went home on Monday, 29th of September, have also been shot. People say it in a way that does not leave any doubt. No trains left Lubyanivka at all. People saw cars with warm shawls and other things driving away from the cemetery. German accuracy. They already sorted the loot. A Russian girl accompanied her girlfriend to the cemetery, but crawled through the fence from the other side. She saw how naked people were taken towards Babi Yar and heard shots from a machine gun. There are more and more rumors and accounts. They are too monstrous to believe, but we are forced to believe them, for the shooting of the Jews is a fact which is starting to drive us insane. It is impossible to live with this knowledge. The women around us are crying, and we also cried on the 29th of September, when we thought they were taken to a concentration camp. But now, can we really cry? I am writing, but my hair is standing on end." Around this time, anti-Semitism in the USSR was becoming more prevalent. Once World War II had ended, anti-Semitism increased even more rapidly, culminating in the Doctors' Plot, accusations against Jewish doctors of a conspiracy to assassinate Soviet leaders. This led to the arrest and execution of many Jews, and other Jews lost their jobs. Even after Stalin's death, anti-Semitism was prevalent in the government. This partially manifested in propaganda denying that Jews were ever targeted for murder by the Nazis or the Soviet government. The situation was seen as untenable by Shostakovich, who had a history of writing Jewish works, such as his Second Piano Trio and the song cycle From Jewish Folk Poetry. The composer Dmitri Shostakovich was born in 1906. Throughout his life, he was attacked by Soviet authorities for creating music that didn't conform to Soviet tastes or ideologies. Oftentimes, this music was written as a direct criticism of the Soviet government, such as the finale of his Symphony No. 5, where the brass bombastically state the main theme with constant repeated notes in the violins and woodwinds. These repeat over 200 times, representing Soviet propaganda beating into people's minds that they must always rejoice, that life was always getting better, even when life was obviously getting worse. Shostakovich's From Jewish Folk Poetry was written in 1948, after the Zhdanov Decree, which denounced him and other eminent Soviet composers, accusing them of being enemies of the state. The denunciation meant that Shostakovich's song cycle couldn't be performed publicly. Instead, he shared it with trusted friends who all agreed that the cycle was too political for public performance.
The renowned poet Yevgeny Yevtushenko wrote the poem Babi Yar about the Babi Yar massacre, where Jewish citizens of Kiev were subjected to mass execution at the nearby Babi Yar ravine. When Shostakovich saw this, he decided to write a symphony on Yevtushenko poems which became his 13th symphony. Around this time, Yevtushenko came under attack for his poem focusing on Jews. The Soviet authorities claimed that Russians and Ukrainians also died at the Babi Yar ravine, a false claim. Thus, Shostakovich came under attack for his 13th symphony. Due to this, Mravinsky, who always premiered Shostakovich's works in the past, refused to perform the work. Shostakovich turned to famed conductor Kirill Kondrashin, who gladly accepted the responsibility to premiere it. Originally, the bass singer Boris Gomurya was to sing the premiere. The Soviet authorities pressured him to withdraw from the premiere, which he did. Shostakovich found another singer to replace him, Viktor Nechapailo. Vitaly Gramadsky was to be a substitute in case something happened. This proved to be a prudent decision, as Nechapailo withdrew at the last minute in order to cover another singer in a different performance who had been ordered to get sick. Only Gramadsky was left to perform it. Proof of Soviet propaganda covering up anti-Semitism can be seen even during the rehearsals. In one such rehearsal, according to Kondrashin, the singer Gramadsky suddenly piped up, "Dmitry Dmitrievich, why did you choose this poem when there is no anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union?" Shostakovich was almost shouting when he replied, "No, there is. There is anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union. It is an outrageous thing, and we must fight it." Official interference continued throughout the day of the premiere, December 18, 1962. Cameras that were meant to film the event were dismantled and the entire choir threatened to leave. Yevtushenko barely managed to convince them to stay with an impassioned plea. The government attempted to pressure Kondrashin into dropping the first movement of the piece, but he refused. The evening's performance was a triumph and almost caused a political demonstration, he recounts. Future performances of the symphony were performed with an altered version of the lyrics, one that emphasized Russia's heroic stand against fascism rather than the anti-Semitism present in the Soviet Union and Europe. Shostakovich reluctantly agreed to this change when he realized that the symphony stood little chance of being performed again otherwise. He kept the original lines intact in his manuscript of the symphony. The changed lyrics aside, the setting of Babi Yar to music and subsequent official attempts to stop its premiere caused both the poem and the symphony to reach greater renown than otherwise possible. Shostakovich describes the impact Yevtushenko's poem had by saying, "People knew about Babi Yar before Yevtushenko's poem, but they were silent. And when they read the poem, the silence was broken. Art destroys silence." In 1976, the Soviet Union erected a monument to the civilians killed at Babi Yar. They make no mention of the ethnicities of those murdered, nominally following the Soviet ideal that unity is the most important virtue of their country. In reality, anti-Semitism was still prevalent in the Soviet Union at the time, and it would be many more years until a monument to the murdered Jews was established at the ravine. Outside of the Soviet Union, however, awareness of the massacre spread. In 1969, land in Denver, Colorado was designated for the construction of a Babi Yar Memorial Park to be completed in 1983. And in 1972, a monument to Babi Yar was established in Givatayim, Israel. Finally, in 1991, a menorah-shaped monument was erected at the site of the Babi Yar massacre, only months after Ukraine's separation from the Soviet Union. One more monument has been constructed since Kiev's in Sydney, Australia in 2014. Much more widespread than recognition for Babi Yar is the appreciation of Shostakovich's music commemorating the massacre. His 13th Symphony is one of his most popular, and its message speaking out against marginalization and discrimination still carries a powerful message in today's world. Shostakovich saw the importance of protecting the rights of the Jews in the Soviet Union when he composed and premiered his Symphony No. 13. Despite the danger to his person, he pushed through adversity and fulfilled his civic responsibility to enshrine the rights of the Jews in his music. Today, more than ever, it is a vitally important responsibility of our society to uphold these rights. In light of recent outbreaks of anti-Semitism, as well as of discrimination against those of the LGBT community, racism, ultranationalism, and many more issues, it is our responsibility to support the rights of all people who would otherwise be crushed.